essentially financial independence is being able to have the experiences you want and pay for them, regardless of a geographical location, someone to answer to, a boss, a parent, a partner, a spouse. And when you are in that situation, you are financially independent. Financial freedom is the next step. And that's kind of, that's basically, financial independence, they still need you, right? But financial freedom, complete financial freedom, is where you can maintain that income for those experiences, regardless of you. You could lose your bodily functions, you could lose your mind, you could lose, the market could crash, or you could, you could die and still generate that income. And that's true kind of legacy financial freedom, where you've got income coming in regardless of you, your time, your space, and it will come in perpetuity.
You're listening to the Sales Today podcast, and I'm your host, Fred Copestake. On this podcast, we explore how sales professionals can develop a modern approach to winning business, the application of virtual selling techniques, how to create meaningful business relationships, and much more. Why not take our free collaborative selling scorecard to see how your sales approach suits today's environment? You'll find a link in the show notes. And welcome to the Sales Today podcast, where I'm delighted to be joined by Jason Graystone. Jason is host of the Always Free podcast, which is all about financial education and wealth creation. And so I thought it'd be really useful for Jason to come along today and talk to us about money mindset. Because about this time last year, when I was launching a book, I had a guest on who spoke about his area of expertise, which was closing, but said at the end, Fred, can I just give another piece of advice? I said, yeah, of course you can. That's what you're here for. And he said, the piece I want to give is that salespeople need to sort themselves out. They need to sort themselves out financially, because if they're not right, then that is going to have an effect on their overall performance. So all the stuff we've been talking about before is almost going to become irrelevant. And I thought, well, Jason's an expert in this stuff, so that's why I wanted him to come on and share some of his thinking. So, Jason, welcome.
Thanks for having me. Cheers for having me, Fred. Always a pleasure catching up.
Yeah, because technically, well, you are a second-time guest.
Yeah, second time.
There aren't many of those.
Well, we must be doing something right.
You do a hell of a lot right. I listen to your podcast. I do your training anyway. And so, yeah, I think some of the stuff that you can share will be useful for just people to get themselves sorted, want of a better word.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if we start with money mindset, I mean, this stuff just gets bandied around quite a lot. Can you sort of help us define that and explain what that means?
Money mindset. I think at the core of what a money mindset is as humans, we want to survive, right? Ultimately. And for the longest time, evolution has built this medium of fair exchange through cash as an economy, where we pay for goods and services, and we pay for those things that need us, that we need to survive. So we need food, we need shelter, we need warmth, and we pay for that with this thing called cash, which is basically a bartering system. So whether it's the actual physical note of money or a bartering system, that ability to be able to receive something in exchange for services provided is a security that gives us peace of mind that we can live for however long that lump of cash lasts. So when you think about money in that way, it's literally like survival. It is the most important thing in the world. It's the most important thing in the world to have the longest chance of survival, ultimately, right? And that's why it's so tied closely to, it's so emotive, and that's why it plays such a huge part on decisions that you make and actions you take and risks that you take. Ultimately, it all boils down to, how much cash have I got safe in the bank? Because that's my lifeline. That's how long I can live without then start having a lower level of life. My mind will start to deteriorate. My health will start to deteriorate. My spirit will start to deteriorate. And it all boils down to money. So money is very intrinsically linked to the human brain. And that's the reality of it.
Right. And so people have kind of different attitudes towards that then. That's kind of how I start to understand this.
Yeah, people don't understand that that is the thing, and they have this kind of opinion that money isn't important and family should be more important, and all these other things are important. Great, yeah, they are important things, but by actually telling yourself that money isn't important, and understanding that it is actually something you need to have a better life. And a lot of people say you don't need money to have a better life. I've just explained why money does provide a better life. Forget all of the Ferraris and the trinkets and all the rest of it. I'm just talking about pure survival. The more money you've got, the longer you can survive for, and the more choice you have, the more freedom you have to compose yourself and think about how you spend each day. If you don't have the money, you're kind of on this treadmill, on this hamster wheel. For whatever reason, it has been, many people have been indoctrinated into this idea that money isn't important, or money's the root of all evil, perhaps from the perspective of, oh, why can't I just, why do I have to go and work for money? Or people who go after money are greedy. Actual fact, people who want as much money as possible are just thinking about, being able to have the longest chance of survival. And that's really all it is. So there's a massive conflict created by many things, religions who indoctrinate people into tithing and giving away 10% of their income to the church. There's things like genius marketing campaigns that tell us that we should spend our money on TV, or go do this and do that, and this is a great family activity, you have to do this at Christmas, or you have to spend this, and all of these kind of things, without us realizing, have indoctrinated us into thinking you should give your money away. Actually, it's better to give your money away. But then what that ends up with is a lot of frustrated and resentful people, particularly as they get into 35, 45, that kind of age bracket, where they think, oh, I've just been lied to. This is the reality of money, and this is what it can do for me. And they only figure that out kind of middle age, and then it's then it's like, how can I reverse engineer my life to get back to doing what I always wanted to do, and just get paid to do that. And it's like this whole self-discovery process that seems to take place, but it's all driven by that money mindset and that shift in money mindset.
Because you mentioned, I mean, we can talk about the trinkets, and what was the expression that you use? I've heard you use this on the podcast a couple of times. Is it like buying shit that you don't need or want to impress people that you don't even like, or something like that? Is that I got about right?
Keeping up with the Joneses.
Which is one thing, but the thing that I think is quite interesting, if we look at sort of the current situation, is that when times are tough, and if you're starting to sort of feel, under pressure, your brain does start to do weird things, or maybe, well, it's not weird, it's what it's designed to do. But can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Sure. First of all, when are times tough, and when are you under pressure? Only when it's money involved, right? That's basically it. It's usually it. Unless you're in a war or something like that, and you're out in, on the front line. Usually, the only time the crap's going to hit the fan, and you're under immense pressure, and you're really worried, and you're kind of threatened for your survival, is because of money. So when you, in fact, there was a study done in India, in the 56 cities in southern India, and they tested the farmers' IQ, and they found that when there was a drought and the market was low and there was no trade, their IQ dropped by like 30 points. And then obviously when it was all booming again, and there was a monsoon and all the rest of it, and all the crops were growing, then their IQ raised by 30 points. So what that indicated and proved was your IQ, or your mentality is linked to your level of poverty. So when you go into poverty, and poverty is relative, it's basically not being able to keep up with your personal life comforts. That's when you go into a level of poverty. You start to get fearful and fretful, and you go into this animal part of your brain, which isn't capable of making logical decisions. That's why your IQ drops. So now you're making decisions based on, emotion and gut. And when you get into that realm, you start getting desperate. It's kind of a downward spiral, because if you're a salesperson, for instance, and you're selling and you need to make the sales to pay your rent, you are going to speak in desperation, and that is going to have the reverse effect on making a sale. People don't want desperation. They want something that's, that they believe that they need, and they're not going to believe that they need it if you're desperately trying to sell it to them. So it's kind of a catch-22. A real example, a real example of this is, let's just say, for instance, this is an example I use all the time. If you're a builder and you're finishing off some work around someone's house, and you've got no cash in the bank, you're absolutely desperate to be paid that final invoice. What will happen is, if they ring you up and say, "Hi, John, I'll pay your last invoice, but I just want you to come and sort these last snags out that I'm not happy with." What you'll do in that situation is you'll go into animal brain and you'll be very defensive. You might even be aggressive. You'll go around their house and like get into all sorts of arguments, and there'll be friction, and you'll just be like, "Pay me my money." And the chances are, they're not going to pay you. They're probably not going to recommend you ever. They might not even pay you what you're owed, right? Whereas if you switch the scenario into a builder's got 6 months living costs in the bank, say, and they know for 6 months they can survive, and if the crap hits the fan and they don't get paid this invoice, it's not the end of the world. They'll be all right for 6 months. It's a completely different conversation. They ring you up and you say, "No worries, don't worry, I'm going to come around, I'm going to make sure that you're happy with everything. I want a long-term profitable relationship with you. I want you to recommend me." And you go around and you put the love and the care and attention into completing the job to their thing. Guess what? They're going to pay you. They're probably going to tip you. They're going to recommend you to all their friends, and you'll be inundated with work. Your rates will go up because you're over, you've got more work than you can handle. So there is there is an immediate return on investment just by having a cash cushion to relieve that animal brain and put it away, so that then you go into logical decision making.
Yeah. I mean, I've heard guests on here before have talked about salespeople having commission breath. That sounds horrible, doesn't it? Well, it is horrible.
Commission
it's
breath.
repellent. It's repellent.
PVC window salesmen are the worst. Forgive me if there's any listeners.
That's half my listener base, mate. You've just alienated them.
I just had a bad experience with one of them once. It was embarrassing.
But yeah, that needy sale. And I mean, more and more we're talking about, in the B2B sales world, the genuine connection is where we need to be. And for me, what salespeople need to be doing is helping people make sense of stuff. And that needs that neocortex, that needs that kind of front part of the brain, doesn't it? Where you can be very clear and kind of have these insights, perspectives, bring interesting new stuff. But again, if you're working in the reptile of the old part, and you're not going to be much use to somebody. You're not going to be helping them make sense.
People don't know why they need to buy something, and it's your job to tell them what, people only want to buy what they want. They don't know what they need. You know what they need. But if you're just saying, "Oh, you should just buy it," what good is that? You have to articulate why it's going to help them, and why they need it, and how it's going to remove their pain points. But if you're on a level of pain yourself, it's going to be very difficult to articulate that across, and you'll just be trying to force them what they need, but they don't actually know why they need it, so they're not going to buy from you.
They don't know. That was a podcast I just did recently with Melina Palmer, who's a behavioral scientist who just, people don't know. So the whole buyers are liars thing, sort of, but they don't mean to. They just do not know. If they knew
what they needed, they wouldn't need you, right?
Well, there's enough information out there.
They're obviously not doing something right, or they're missing a part of the puzzle to get the result that they want, which is, you've done it because you've dedicated your life to achieving that result. So you know what they need, but they're blind to what they need. They just know, that they want the destination. They don't actually know how to get there. So telling them you need this, you need that, that's like, it's almost bouncing off their ears. It's alien to them.
Yeah. And again, that kind of that clarity of thinking that we need. I mean, I'm talking to a lot of people at the moment about guiding folk through VUCA. Volatility, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity. I mean, that is real at the moment. Probably always has been. It's just the word came up in the 60s, 70s. But a good salesperson, you can combat VUCA with VUCA Prime. I love this model. Volatility, give people vision. Complexity, give them clarity. Uncertainty, give them understanding. Ambiguity, help them be more agile. I mean, that stuff is such a gift, but you've got to be on form to do that. and not panicking yourself and feeling all those pressures, probably worse than the person that you're trying to help.
Exactly. You've got to have your stuff together. You've got to be emotionally in check. You've got to be able to see the good or bad in every situation. You've got to be very poised. You've got to be a leader, and you can't lead when you're desperate to pay your bills, and the sale depends on you, whether or not you get evicted or not, or whatever, right? It's an extreme example, but I know many, multi-millionaires on paper who during lockdown, they were in exactly the same situation.
Yeah.
They had the exact animal brain go on. And they were in that state of desperation as well.
I love talking about salespeople having to lead. Because when you just say it like that, everyone goes, what? Lead people up the garden path? Come on, what are you? No. Lead them to help them think and do better. So servant leadership would be the stuff that we're looking at there.
Absolutely.
Okay, so you talked about, you said something really interesting there. You need to be emotionally in check. Well, that was easy to throw out as a line.
Yeah.
What sort of things, I mean, you're already alluding to this, but what sort of things can we do to really kind of get ourselves sorted?
Right. So what I found helps me, and what I truly believe has been kind of, I don't know, a staple behind some of the decisions I've made, some of the situations that I've been in, and how I've come out the end of those, is being able to, first of all, be grateful for what you've got, first of all, but maybe reassess and just make sure that you're in check with just how much you have got, because a lot of the people who do really go into animal brain, it's because they're comparing themselves to someone else. And just by removing that can just be a massive weight off your shoulders. Oh, no, I was going to be a millionaire. So-and-so's a millionaire by he's 40. I'm nowhere near, just don't worry about that. Have you had some nice holidays and some nice times with your kids, and have you have some good experiences, will they remember you for time you spent with them? And really just getting to grips with that can be a massive weight off the shoulders, because most people just compare themselves to others, which creates this anxiety and then even depression just from doing that. So that's the first thing. The second thing is try and always ask yourself, what's the worst that could happen? What is the worst that could happen? If I lost my house, what is the worst that could happen? I'm sure everything will be okay in terms of life. Imagine you're on your deathbed and you think, wow, when at that time I lost my house, at least I didn't lose my life. At least I had some friends that I could stay with, and things like that, right? Just, I'm not saying it's that extreme, but I'm just saying, what's the worst that could happen in any situation? And the next thing is try and see the good and bad in every situation. So it's like, okay, and I'm not just saying the good and bad as in any event. I'm saying try and see the fantasies or the downsides in any kind of endeavor. If you're chasing a new investment like crypto, try and see the downsides in it, because there's no sure thing. If something happens to you and you lose a load of money, well, what were the lessons you got from that, and how much are those lessons worth for you going forward? If you lose a client, what were all the bad things about that client? Is that actually, try and neutralize the feelings between what you think is good and what you think is great, because there's, the truth is somewhere in the middle, and that's reality. So just being poised is, my definition of being poised is basically being able to see good and bad in any event, and it allows you to remain calm. If you can just do that, even if you've got no money, even if you can just do that with no money, you will then be able to communicate on levels that allow you to attract more money, because that's the mindset that will get you opportunities. You'll inspire people. You'll be able to you'll be motivated. So yeah, I mean, that's some of the exercises that I would suggest. And save a cash cushion. The first priority is save up, work out your living expenses right now. And I'm not talking the Domino's pizza and all that kind of stuff. I'm talking about literally food, shelter, water. What does it come to every month? Prioritize saving until you've got 3 to 6 months of that amount stashed in the bank, and it will do wonders for your mindset.
But Jason, I work to live. I deserve these extra treats and trinkets and things.
I work to live. This is the ironic thing. I mean, I get comments all the time from people saying, what are you going to do with all this wealth when you die? You can't take it with you.
That's the other one.
Live for today. You might get hit by a bus tomorrow. The irony in that, first of all, those are the people that don't value financial freedom. The irony in all of that is those people that say that are the ones that work their entire lives as slaves to money. And the ones that value freedom and really living a great life, which they're saying that you should enjoy and live a life, the ones that really value and are able to do that are the ones that figure out how to get their money working for them in a way that is leveraged of their time and space. And they build something that they're not a slave to money. They control their money. They're not controlled by their money. So fascinating.
It is kind of a bit backwards when you start to understand that. And I'll be guilty of both. Well, guilty of one, and I've just kind of seen the light on the other. We'll come back to a little bit more about how we can do that, because that is what you do in a sec. But you mentioned comparison, and I think you've got a kind of interesting angle on comparison, because you sort of said, well, it's bad. But is it always bad?
Comparison, as in what, like an event that takes place?
No. So when you're comparing to other people, you
When
said,
you
"Oh
compare
yeah,
to other
they're a
people.
millionaire. They got a million under 40. Oh, I'm not. Oh, I'm bad. Blah 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 blah." And everyone's saying, "Yes, you should never compare. Don't compare. Comparison's bad."
Well, I when I say you shouldn't compare to other people, what I'm really getting at is you shouldn't compare yourself to people who have achieved a level of success doing something that you've got no interest in doing. So people beat themselves up for not getting on the crypto thing or getting on the forex trading or they didn't make money in the .com boom and on all this kind of stuff, and they don't do the drop shipping and all that hype stuff. And the thing is, you probably don't want to do it because the ones that have done it have really loved it, right? So comparing yourself to those sorts of people, you're going to cause anxiety because you don't actually want to do it. And that's the type of people that then have to go and find motivational videos on YouTube and get procrastination and get overwhelmed because they're beating themselves up for trying to do something that they don't actually want to do. However, on the flip side, comparing yourself to someone who's got relative success in an area that you actually love, great, right? If you're really, really unhealthy and you're about to be diagnosed with flipping, you've got diabetes and you're about to have a heart attack, it pays to look up to someone and compare yourself to someone who's got a great fitness routine and, take some tips from them because that is life or death. Same goes for if you're in business and you really want to be a great salesperson, you look at and you love sales and you love learning it. And you look up to someone, Grant Cardone or whoever the sales guru is, and you go, right, I compare myself to them. I want to learn more and be more like them because that is true to you and your values. So there's merit in doing that. But it's a fine line, and again, this whole brainwash thing of don't compare yourself to others. Be you, be happy with who you are. Well, yes and no.
Yeah,
everything.
I subscribe to the same thinking because of exactly that. Yeah, if somebody's good at it, well, why can't I want to learn from them.
Absolutely.
I do want to compare myself to what they do that I don't do because I want to start doing that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But you're not taught that in school, right? It's all not to touch others, not to teach others, copy others, and you get on with your own homework and all the rest of it. Well, the key to success is finding people that have already done it and copying them. So
I hadn't thought of it like that from the school point of view.
You're right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. Yeah, it's a good one if you're a bit bored and you want a bit of an argument, just start throw it out there.
Oh,
yeah. Comparison's a great thing actually, because the brave ones, oh no, and then when you give it the argument like you have, people get fairly fed up. I don't know, maybe that's just me being a bit of an idiot.
There's always fine lines, right? And even if you're looking, even if you are, I don't like the word user from look up to, because by doing that you're kind of putting them above you. When we're all equal, it's just they've mastered certain skills. And sometimes you can fall into the trap of looking up to someone, and then that causes anxiety, even if it is something you love, just because you've got this fantasy that they're perfect, and they're not actually perfect. They've got usually when someone's got a great success in one part of their life, relationships are falling apart, their finances might be terrible. Yeah, I know a couple of business owners that run a $25 million business, and they've never been able to pay themselves. They're broke. So it's just try and see all that, try and see the reality. Don't have them on a pedestal.
I suppose a good word we could probably use here is to sort of model. Just kind of model the best bits, model the stuff that's worked, and that's the stuff that you can repeat and sort of make work for you. I guess I know that's what you do in helping people be financially free, getting a control. So
exactly.
Could you just explain what you mean by financially free? That sounds like a big
financial
freedom. You don't
freedom.
have to do anything.
Yeah, right. So financial freedom's really in two parts. Stage 1 and stage 2. Stage 1 is basically what everyone's striving for, where you get to do what you want, okay, and be able to afford the experiences that you want. That's it, right? So for some people, financial independence could just be having a job, getting paid enough to go to the pub every weekend, and that's all they want to do. And that's their financial freedom, because they don't moan about the job. They're all right with the hours, and they're fine, right? They're happy. Financial independence, for most people, is being able to choose how you spend your time, regardless of time and space. So in COVID, when everyone was forced to work from home, a lot of people realized, wow, I'd actually accept less money, but have more mobility and more choice on how I structure my day. And they were happier to take pay cuts and do that. And that proved that, financial independence is basically being able to do what you want, wherever you want, with whoever you want, and still have the experiences you want whilst getting paid. So when you think about that, it's not actually too out of reach. It can be achieved quite easily. You just got to figure out, how can I monetize enough, something that I enjoy, to have experiences that I enjoy to the amount that I enjoy doing them. Because everyone's got this idea that I just want to sit on a beach drinking cocktails for 5 weeks. That's not real. You might last 5 weeks, but after 5 weeks, you're going to be pretty bored. For the rest of your life, you're going to want to be up to stuff. You're going to want to be doing stuff. And the people that don't believe that are the people that are in a dire situation doing things that they hate doing. So they just want to break. But in reality, when you do have the prosperity, you do always want to do stuff. So then it's just a case of figuring out, how can I get paid enough doing this to have the experiences that I want? And if I want more experiences, how can I, reduce the time doing that? And it's kind of a balancing act. But essentially, financial independence is being able to have the experiences you want and pay for them, regardless of a geographical location, someone to answer to, a boss, a parent, a partner, a spouse. And when you are in that situation, you are financially independent. Financial freedom is the next step. And that's kind of, that's basically, financial independence, they still need you, right? But financial freedom, complete financial freedom, is where you can maintain that income for those experiences, regardless of you. You could lose your bodily functions, you could lose your mind, you could lose, the market could crash, or you could, you could die and still generate that income. And that's true kind of legacy financial freedom, where you've got income coming in regardless of you, your time, your space, and it will come in perpetuity. And just on that, a lot of people, again, another conflict that we see all the time: YouTube isn't a real job. I'll get a real job. You can't make money. But all YouTubers are doing is doing what they love on camera, trampolining or whatever it might be, and getting paid. And that is what everyone's goal is in life, to be able to just get paid to do what they love. And that's financial freedom.
Trampoline. I thought they went around fighting everyone now. That's the latest thing. Oh, maybe that's just the stuff I see. Awesome. Thanks for the explanation on that. So again, let me just make sure I've understood this right. So we start off talking about the mindset. So we talk about the people who are in a job. Get yourself sorted at a fundamental level so you could do your job really well. Yeah, and as a salesperson who's listening to this, that's to guide your customers and to help them make sense of stuff. You're not really in a position to do that if you haven't made sense of stuff yourself. Yeah.
Yep.
Then the other kind of areas that this might take you into is the financial independence and then financial freedom. So
Which is
it's a hierarchy.
essentially delegation, delegation, systemization, doing less and having more choice on what you do.
Yeah. Oh, I like the idea of doing less. Sounds awesome. Brilliant. Okay, so what else could you share that, again, I was thinking back into sort of specific, a salesperson listening to this, that they should be taking on board and kind of using just to kind of make sure that they're right to do the job. Yeah, they're in the right place.
Yeah. First of all, if what we've been talking about has kind of triggered something in you, a fire in your belly or what have you, the next thing to do is just really get realistic about your current situation, your finances, get close to your money, be really close to your bank balance. Whatever we focus our energy and attention on will grow in the direction we want it to. That's the real law of attraction. We have an intention and something happens because we're focused on it. So there's that, but there's also the fact that people think it's way, way out of reach, but in actual fact, it's not. If you think in terms of returns on investment, if you're looking to use your money to become financially free, in actual fact, if you just look at savings, for instance, most people in the UK have got like £1,500 saved in their bank, and that's that's not a lot. So if you just go past £1,500, you've got more than most people. And guess what? The risk of saving is nothing. You just got the worst case. You just got the money there, right? So there's no risk in doing it. Second of all, I was in a taxi a while back, and he picked me up from a house, and he said, "Oh man, I love your house. I want a house like this one day." And he says, "I'm gonna work 2 jobs until I get a house like yours and be mortgage free." And I said, "Great, man. That sounds awesome." I said, what will you do when you're mortgage free? And you could see the color dropped from his face because he hadn't give one single thought into he have to keep working. You've got to pay for the upkeep of this house. I said, "Yeah, it's like the upkeep of his house. My gas and electricity bill is like $800 a month at the moment." And he's like, "Wow, he never even thought about it." And I said, "If you don't mind me asking, how much equity do you have in your home right now?" And he said it's about 400 grand or 450 grand. And I said, that's awesome. I said, imagine if you invested that and got a 10% return per year. That's a 45 grand a year income. How much could you rent a house for and live the life? Yeah, how much are you on now? And he was like, "Yeah, I'm on about 48 grand. I said, so it's not really too different to what you're on right now. And you could actually be free and never have to work. You just take the money, put it in investments, get 10% return. You got 45 grand coming in every year without eating into that investment money. And you don't have to do anything. You're completely financially free." He couldn't talk. He literally had never given it a single thought of the numbers. And people do it with their pensions as well. It's like the average life expectancy, 76 years old or 77 years old. Average pension pot, 87 grand. Life, average retirement age, 65. Well, you got 12 years to make 87 grand last. Is that going to last you? Because that's £600 a month. And then people don't do the numbers. So it's best to get really close to your money, because you don't want to wait until it's this kind of looming, daunting thing where you've got to rush and figure out a strategy. You want to actually just have something that's clear. You know your numbers, you know exactly what the options are, and then you just chip away, and the result's inevitable. Becoming financially independent is a guaranteed science if you do certain things. There's no way you can't be. It's just people don't tend to do it.
Yeah. And you've modeled this stuff, so I was going to ask, where do people find you? But That's everywhere, isn't it? I mean, you're ubiquitous, and I think is that one of your companies? Is that one of your companies, which is all about
Yeah. We believe
having
in
great
in
social
the
media
power of
presence?
social media.
um, so it's basically we're looking for at Jason Graystone, really.
Yeah, there are Instagram. I still haven't managed to get that handle because someone took it out of spite or whatever. But J_Graystone on Instagram. But the rest is Jason Graystone. Yeah. And if you go to jasongraystone.com, you'll find all the official outlets there, and you'll find all some training and things like that you can hit me up on.
Brilliant. We will pop that in the show notes, and probably a bit counterintuitive to direct someone up from a podcast to another podcast, but I'll pop the link to your podcast as well.
Amazing. Appreciate that. Thanks very much.
It's you have to listen to it. You can do what you want, I suppose, but I think you recommend that you listen to it in order. Certainly the first dozen or so are very deliberately recorded and to help you get that some of the stuff you've been talking.
Yeah. If you're gonna go and listen to the podcast, I really did put a lot of effort and attention into making sure that they were delivered in an action step order, an implementation order, where if you go and do the actions in those podcasts from episode 1 to 20 in order, you are going to become financially free if you take those steps. So there's no doubt about it. And it all comes from the philosophy of earning your right to risk, earning your right to the animal, putting the animal brain away and unlocking new levels of your brain to be able to cope and keep up with the growth of your money. And I always say, your investments and the way that you use your money should be gauged by how well you can sleep at night. If you've put all your money into a crypto, chances are you're not going to sleep very well. But you will be able to sleep very well if you've put your money in crypto at the end of the run. There's steps before that you can do so that when you do put your money in a crypto or go and place a bet on a horse or whatever you might be your thing, you can sleep at night because you know that it can't impact you. It can't defeat your legacy, your financial freedom. So yeah, check it out. I'd love to know what you think. And if you love it, just give us a message and tell me if it's good or crap.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I don't think it's crap. I think it's very, very good. So we'll do that. Brilliant. Thanks so much for joining and sharing some
Thanks
stuff there.
me.
I know there's going to be some things which people can take and start to use pretty much immediately.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, mate. Cheers. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for listening to the Sales Today podcast with me, your host, Fred Copestake. I hope you've enjoyed what you heard today. If you did, please get in touch and hit subscribe. And remember, you can take the Collaborative Selling Scorecard for free to check out how your sales approach works in today's environment. You'll find it in the show notes.